Hello, thank you for joining me for the Professional Veterinary Team Member Certificate. This is our second homework assignment for the managers, and our focus today is hiring strategies and job descriptions. So a lot of times the question is simply, do we have a hiring strategy? Oftentimes, veterinary hospitals don't have a hiring strategy, so we'd like to create that for you and help you identify that. We'd also like to help you implement a hiring process. Along with this exercise, we have a number of handouts. The handouts are located as a download and PDFs with this link. If you don't have them, now is a good time to download them. So you may want to stop the video, download all of the handouts, and then come back on board. If you have them already in your hand, fantastic. We'll continue to go forward. The downloads include what's your hiring strategy. There's also an example for job description for a head veterinary technician, a job announcement for that position, plus an article and a handout on good and bad job announcements so that you can critique them. Also, the do's and don'ts of hiring and interviewing. Here are the tips we will be elaborating upon to hiring and finding that top talent. Obviously, we're going to have a conversation around the hiring strategy and what position do you really absolutely need. Oftentimes, veterinary hospitals will think, oh my gosh, our caseload is so large and our team seems so busy, we must need another veterinarian. And yet when you step back and you go through this audit, you realize that the caseload can be properly delegated and leveraged to the other team members that you have, or possibly bringing on another technician. And you may learn through all of this team audit that yes, you do need a veterinarian. Creating this job description specific to the identified need is crucial. Yes, you may have job descriptions that one size fit all, but as your team grows and even the needs of your practice change to accommodate new services and the clients that you have, I feel job descriptions should also change and reflect those needs. Consider the sphere of influence when you're networking and hiring. We're going to talk more about objectively critiquing cover letters and asking questions during the interview process that show initiative. Hopefully through this program, you'll see that there is a need to create a protocol for the hiring process. And once you have designed it, sticking to it. And those do's and don'ts of hiring and interviewing. First, let's talk about this team audit and the hiring strategy. Stith Kaiser wrote a really good article on strategic planning and designing this hiring strategy. He actually discusses identifying a SWOT, which is an acronym for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and gives you percentages and formulas to follow as you're going through this team audit. He asks about average transaction charges, the number of clients that you have, your revenue, and how much revenue does each veterinarian generate in a year. I often begin team audits with a simple evaluation of mission, vision, and values. Your statements created around these are definitely giving your team tools for success in a common goals and purposes. Oftentimes we don't consider our team culture and really what that means when hiring new people. Team culture is essentially the traditions that we hold on to and what we do as a team together to support each other. A team culture could include continuing education. It can include training processes, um, policies and procedures, and even the hierarchy that we identify within our veterinary hospital and how we work within that hierarchy. It does exist, and identifying it can be a great tool for success. When we begin to dive into this audit and evaluating job descriptions and the duties that our teams are actually fulfilling, you may see overlaps. There's a great exercise, I call it the day in the life, and it's where you actually ask your team members for about 3 days to write out what they are actually doing in as much detail as they can muster, and then collating that together and possibly in a spreadsheet or a Word document, and you can really start to begin to see the overlap, which is inefficient in a lot of respects, and the gaps that are open for improvement. Taking a look at the efficiency of your team can be enlightening. And as I mentioned earlier, the busy work may not always be prioritizing what really needs to be done. In this audit, consider the client service and the level of client service you wish to provide. Offering an extraordinary client experience starts with that phone call, starts with that website review. It begins outside of the veterinary practice oftentimes. And then looking at how are we offering client service within the realm of our hospital itself. And is our team meeting that expectation and offering that extraordinary experience? Other items for this team audit, including the doctor-team ratio. This isn't too difficult. It is relayed and discovered by identifying your full-time equivalent doctor to the full-time equivalent team members. What is more difficult to identify is the efficiencies within that. Benchmarking may show us that a 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 and 5 even doctor to team ratio can be the best, and working efficiently within that doctor to team ratio is often the more difficult question to answer. Your hospital revenue definitely helps us to determine who and what we need, and identifying, as I described earlier, what is each doctor generating as an annual revenue. There are benchmarks out there. I believe Stiff mentions that one veterinarian in a practice where the team is leveraged well can generate $530,000 a year. So that's a number to shoot for. And how are you doing in that target? Another determining factor of who and how you're going to hire are the number of clients you have. And who are you keeping, the retention in that, and how are you bringing more into your veterinary hospital? Again, during this team audit, identify those gaps. You may find that you have a good doctor to team ratio. You may just need to train and delegate within that current team, and that's fine. That's great, matter of fact. During this exercise, you may have decided that yes, or you may already know, we need to hire a new team member. And who exactly is that? And what exactly is their role? And how are you going to find them? I'm going to drive us back to that mission statement for a moment. Here's an example of a mission statement that I see frequently. And your mission statement may reflect this. We provide veterinary services with integrity and respect for the pet owner, and community. We offer compassionate pet care for all stages of life. That's your team's common purpose. That's what you do on a daily basis. Did you know that having a mission statement and a strategic plan in and of itself can increase your revenue 10 to 12%? That's a big number. That's a big jump. So just knowing that, you may be thinking to yourself, we need to reevaluate our mission statement, or more importantly, and most often, making sure that it's relevant. So it may be time to reevaluate it. Bring the team together and say, is this truly who we are and what we do in a day? And that's strategic planning. If you don't have a strategic plan, now may be the time to begin looking at creating one and creating those goals for 1, 3, and 5 years down the road. For our purposes, we're going to say that our team needs a lead veterinary technician. We've gone through this audit, we've identified our needs, and that's who we're going to hire. The hospital wants a credentialed veterinary technician. And for that person to have management experience is definitely a plus. In short term, we need a leader. We need someone to be scheduling our teams and different departments. We need someone who is going to be driving the team training, who is excelling in exam room education and can teach our team members how to do that really well, and is definitely client-centered. The long-term goals here is moving into even upper management for those advanced management duties. Expectations include mentoring the technicians, assisting in team leveraging, and supporting them in fulfilling their skill sets and really being utilized to the maximum. And team building. And obviously, you'd also include those technical skills too. So let's create a job description around those needs. As I've mentioned before, we will be giving a lot of resources during these exercises and in the upcoming programs on site. One of the resources I go to frequently is the Veterinary Support Personnel Network. You may know it as VSPN. On their websites, which is a free community, you simply sign in and submit your login and fill out a few questions. Then you have access to a very large library of resources. The free subscription is at www.vspn.org. On their library, I found a really good head veterinary technician job description. So the things that are identified in there actually complement very much what we've identified as the needs for this lead technician. So in this job description, it talks about they want someone with college education, a preferred credentialed technician, somebody who has a basic understanding of veterinary terminology, basic procedures in surgery, but also enhances and impacts the management piece. This person reports to the practice manager, the owner, and the doctors. The job description includes animal care and treatment responsibilities, customer service responsibilities, hospital cleanliness, hospital efficiency and management, and also identifies and further elaborates on emergency situations. And there are opportunities for growth listed in this job description, and it's given to you in your PDF file folder, but take a look at it and you can elaborate on it even for your own needs, and it gives a good outline as well. In your handouts is also a announcement that I found actually for Fort Collins, and they were looking for a certified veterinary technician as a manager and lead position. In this job description, it announces that they're a high-paced, growing full-service practice, and they're looking for an experienced certified veterinary technician manager to help continue build their practice in Fort Collins. They say, our state-of-the-art facility allows us to care for the animals throughout all life stages. We are a hybrid practice with general and specialty medicine, including rehabilitation, acupuncture, laser therapy, endodontics, and they continue to list the number of the services they provide. We strongly believe in preventive medicine, yearly screening for disease, dental care, and educating our clients. And then they go on to bullet points and elaborate upon the strengths that this candidate would have. The point I'm trying to make in this is the job description and the job announcement definitely complement each other, and they're created to entice people to work for you. You have to realize there are a number of people looking for jobs and advancements, and the job announcements is actually your first impression to grab a hold of them, to make them read that job announcement and say, yes, that's exactly where I want to work. And that's why I've given you some good job announcement examples and some lousy job announcements. So take a peek at those as well. You can cut and paste out of those to create your own job descriptions, job announcements that really are enticing and offer a really good feel for your veterinary practice and how you want those people to work within your practice. So further elaborating on this sphere of influence, certainly you may be able to hire within your practice, and also know that your current team may be able to find the candidate that fits perfectly into your team culture and meets the needs of the practice. Some veterinary hospitals even have incentives to help team members in that way. So if you hire a candidate that one of your team members suggested and recommended, that is a win-win situation for everybody. Your industry partners and representatives that walk into your veterinary practice may be a great opportunity in spreading the word that you have a position available. You may give that representative the job announcement and even the job description so they can spread the word. So tap into that sphere of influence. In Colorado, we have a pretty resourceful hospital managers group, and they're always explaining that they need new people and they're hiring someplace else, or the flip side of that, oftentimes they say, I just had an awesome interview with somebody. I'm unable to hire them at this time, but maybe you need this person. I mean, so it's a bit of a spin on that. So consider your sphere of influence when you're reaching out to find these great candidates. Terrific. So now that you've got this job description and the job announcement is out there, you are receiving all these cover letters and resumes. I, for one, do ask for a cover letter with all of my job applications. I spend more time reviewing and critiquing the cover letter than I do actually the resume. At this point in the protocol and the process for hiring, it is best to have an objective review of these incoming candidates' applications. You may consider creating an Excel spreadsheet or even just a Word document that across the top has the requirements, the desired skill sets, some of the things that you are really identifying as prioritative in the hiring of this person. And also helping and identifying a hiring team may make this even that better of a process. In the past, I've asked veterinary managers, technicians, and veterinarians to be on hiring teams. And I have asked them even to sit down together and collectively look how we are going to objectively review this and what's the importance of the hiring team. You may be thinking, oh my gosh, that seems so time intensive and labor intensive, and it may be, but I've also feel that it really helps to find that best candidate. Just a little more information on critiquing that cover letter. I critique it for grammar. I critique it for the design in those paragraphs. I look to see if they're really reflecting back to me what I wanted in that job description. You know, I give them all the answers. I tell them exactly what I want in my candidates. I want them to regurgitate that back to me. I want them to show me how they have the skills to fulfill this position and how they're going to do it through past experiences. I really want a few couple short stories that say, yes, I am a team leader because I've done this in other veterinary practices. And yes, I have mentored other teams, and it's been a gratifying, rewarding experience because of this, this, and this. I want it to be descriptive. I really want them and their character to shine in that cover letter. And as you're going through all of these, obviously meeting those hospital needs, aligning with the mission, and the short-term, long-term expectations. So hopefully at the end, you have 3 or 4 candidates that you can start to continue the process. Oftentimes, in my hiring process, I have 4 or 5 questions I will email to them. Open-ended questions, seeking those initiatives and showing me how they've implemented or created or designed or collaborated with team members. Maybe I'm in some of my needs, maybe we need somebody with some financial background. I'm going to ask them financial questions. So email for me is the next step. Then I weed more out, and then I work towards phone interviews, and finally that working interview. I do recommend when you bring somebody in for a working interview for 1 or 2 days that you pay them for that, that you have outlined times for shadowing different people in your practice, maybe even sitting down together and having lunch with key team members so that you really get to know this person. You're starting to draft that letter of intent, and I am a believer in background checks. And oftentimes, even in my job announcements, I will say that there will be a background check during this process. So let them know that that's coming down the pike, and then do complete the background check. Here are some questions for a lead technician that don't end with a yes or no answer. They're pulling more out of them. Oftentimes you ask open-ended questions that are seeking more initiative and helping you to see their character and the traits that you require. Here's some examples. In the past, how were you mentored, and how will you establish mentoring in this hospital? What was the most awful training experience you have ever had, and how would you turn that around to make great training experiences for your team? How does your style of teaching fit into our mission? I do want to warn you, when you ask open-ended questions, sometimes it's difficult to sit there and be quiet, allowing for that interviewer the time, the interviewee, the time to formulate their questions. So sometimes that's difficult. Ask the open-ended question and then be quiet. I do believe that hiring takes the entire team, and that when we do include the team, the final outcome and candidate is of the quality that we deserve and desire. So there are a few don'ts that I would like to hit upon from this handout. There's a number of things that you should be doing during your hiring process and interviewing, and then a few things not to do. So don't hastily fill the position to get someone in the door. Don't ask unlawful questions. And there's a few listed here in this handout. Don't underestimate the value of reference checks of past employers. Don't forget to tap into current and past employees to fill in during transition or even to fill the position. Don't underestimate the use of relief veterinarians and technicians during the interim. Relief veterinarian technicians and veterinarians, this is precisely what they want to do. They want to be able to step in for a short period of time. This is a great time to hire them. Reliefers walk in the door ready to run and do the job. They're not here to fulfill and take the position. They're just to help you during the transition of the position. So thank you so much. There's a lot to be done here. A lot of reading, a lot of resources, a lot of designing job descriptions and job announcements. So the homework, which you will forward to MIDI, is pretty much just that. You may be in the middle of hiring somebody, and if that's the case, great. Walk through this process. Do that team audit. Check your mission, vision, values statements. Check the revenue. Check the clients' retention and incoming number of clients. And thoughtfully decide who you need to hire. And if you're hypothetically doing this, great. Just hypothetically decide on a position. And then we want you to define the needs for the practice and how that position is going to be filled. Then create the job description around those needs and the job announcement for that position. And then we want you to share them with us. So forward them to MIDI. She will collate these together, and we will be talking about this exercise during our on-site gathering. It's been a great time. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please continue to read the materials at hand, forward the homework to MIDI, and there'll be one more homework assignment. Thank you very much.